let's jump right into this explainer with a situation I think a lot of us can relate to. Have you ever felt completely backed into a corner by life? Just exhausted, overwhelmed by problems, and honestly looking for any possible way out? Well, that was the exact reality for one woman, but her intense, deeply personal crisis actually led her to a massive realization about how our minds actively shape our reality.
Seeking some sort of escape from her despair, she sat down, closed her eyes, and visualized herself trapped inside this stuffy, rough-walled mountain cabin. And in her mind, every single door out of this room was totally blocked by symbols of her real-world struggles. We're talking one door blocked by her weight, another by a stack of unpaid bills, but the absolute most terrifying door was blocked by a giant pacemaker, which represented a severe medical problem she was facing. She kept violently tugging at the knob, trying to force it open. But here's the kicker. Waiting just outside that cabin, in stark contrast, was a breathtakingly majestic mountain offering peace, serenity, and wide open paths. So, sitting there completely exhausted in this dark mental room, it suddenly hit her. She realized she was obsessing over the agonizing process of getting well. She was visualizing the grueling struggle of losing weight, the stress of paying off those bills, and the sheer terror of fighting that giant pacemaker. She had completely lost sight of her actual end goal. She wasn't picturing peace or health or freedom. She was making her entire internal reality about the fight itself, rather than the ultimate victory.
And that's when everything changed. She finally stopped fighting with that terrifying pacemaker, turned to the one clear door in the room, and just opened it a crack. Peeking out, she saw this gorgeous, misty purple mountain, a sweeping path, and just absolute beauty. It hit her like a ton of bricks, and she thought, wait, I am not this dark little room. I am the path, and I am the mountain. And guys, here is the truly incredible part of this source material. Within just 6 months of making that exact shift in her inner imagery, her actual real-life weight, debt, and medical problems were completely 100% resolved.
Section 1, the visualization blueprint, from Hermetic philosophy to reality. So you're probably wondering, how on earth did a simple mental image create such a massive, tangible change in her physical life? Well, to understand that, we need to rewind a bit and look at the ancient framework behind this practice. Over 2,000 years ago, Hermetic philosophy recognized a pretty profound foundational truth. Thoughts are literally things. Holding specific mental images creates an actual transmutation. Now, when people hear alchemy, they usually think about turning lead into gold. But the real, original process is actually all about inner transformation. By learning to create and strictly control your mental images, you actively transform your inner self, which then ripples out and transforms the physical universe around you. And to actually pull this off, the source lays out a very clear 5-step blueprint for performing this transmutation and combining your positive desires with the universe. First up, you determine and simplify your goal. Keep it perfectly clear. Second, check its worthiness. Ask yourself, how is this going to bring genuine happiness to both me and others? Third, you have to relax completely. Drain every ounce of physical tension from your body. Fourth, visualize the goal with vivid detail. Don't just look at it from the outside. You need to feel like you are standing right in it. And finally, step 5, release it to the cosmic. You state, it is done, with absolute unwavering conviction.
Section 2, sharpening your inner vision, mastering the details. Now, as simple as those 5 steps might sound on paper, actual visualization can be surprisingly tough, especially because our hectic everyday lives totally drain our ability to notice vital details. So to build up a sort of mental storehouse of crisp sensations, you can train your inner eye by intensely studying a basic object. Think of it as the apple observation exercise. Take a real apple, study its overall shape, the specific unique shadings of red, any little bumps or surface irregularities, how it tilts on the table, and the exact angle of the stem. Really lock it in. Then close your eyes and try to vividly recreate those exact details in your mind. This is basically a workout for your brain, forcing you to move past vague, fuzzy concepts and build up a library of precise, vibrant imagery.
Section 3, taming runaway mental images, overcoming the twinge effect.
Let's say you've got the details down. Often, right when we finally manage to hold a clear image, we instantly lose control of it because our deep-seated anxieties start creeping in. You might experience what the source brilliantly calls the twinge effect. Have you ever tried to picture yourself perfectly healthy or totally debt-free, and suddenly you feel this sharp spike of anger, pain, or disbelief? Yep, that's the twinge effect. It's that nagging little feeling in your gut telling you that you're just lying to yourself about a positive outcome.
And here's the truth. If you don't believe your own visualization, it's just never going to get off the ground.
To get past this roadblock, we have to practice with totally non-threatening symbols. Enter the balloon exercise. See, if you immediately try to visualize the ultimate solution to your deepest trauma, your anxiety is going to hijack that image in seconds. So instead, mentally inflate a bouncy, colorful balloon. In your mind, throw it up to the ceiling and make it stop dead. Bounce it on the floor, bring it back to your hands, and hold it steady. What you're doing here is training your mind to strictly govern the movements of a simple imaginary object. You're building up the necessary mental muscle to tame those heavy, negative feelings later on.
You can take it a step further, too, by dictating exactly where this balloon flies and imagining it safely lifting you up to the ceiling, letting you float around the room, and then gently lowering you back down to the floor. You're doing something crucial. You are actively training your outer self to command your inner reality. You're proving to yourself, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you are the one in charge of the image, making absolutely sure that fear doesn't get to steer the ship.
Section 4. The secret ingredient, emotion.
All right, so once you've mastered controlling your images, you have to inject them with the absolute spark of life. Because just seeing a picture isn't enough. You have to layer in crispness. Imagine the shocking feeling of icy cold water, the smooth, waxy texture of an apple skin, or the loud crunch when you bite into it. But the most important secret ingredient of all? Emotion. A lot of people really struggle to visualize others, or even themselves, because they picture them as flat, static photographs, just frozen into immobility. But come on, human beings are not static. We are living, breathing, dancing spheres of vibrant energy, totally full of movement and life. To break yourself out of that flat photograph trap, the source suggests a really fascinating guided exercise. Picture the face of someone you love and mentally cycle them through some really intense emotions. First, visualize their face filled with pure, intense anger. Then, immediately watch them react and laugh at a really funny joke. Next, shift their expression to deep, heavy sorrow. And finally, see them looking right back at you with profound, genuine love. By doing this, you're forcing the mental image to become a vibrant, living entity. You are physically attaching dynamic, shifting energy to the picture in your mind. And this leads to a massive realization. Whether you perfectly saw every single detail of their face during that exercise, or if you just strongly felt their presence, it genuinely doesn't matter. Successful visualization is entirely about evoking a genuine emotional state. Honestly, the word visualization is kind of misleading. You don't have to project some 4K high-definition movie inside your brain. It doesn't actually have to look real. It just has to feel real, because that raw feeling is what actually connects you to the cosmic.
Section 5. Releasing into the cosmic. Trusting your inner symbols. Since feeling is the ultimate goal here, we absolutely have to stop forcing our inner self to feed us perfectly logical, sensible answers. Sometimes the absolute best way to resolve a problem is to just step back, stop micromanaging the scene, and simply watch the images transform as your inner self directs them. When we finally let go of our rigid expectations, our inner mind might present us with some delightful and, honestly, pretty silly symbols. The source material shares these amazing true accounts of people who solved crushing, real-world personal crises through visualizations that featured just completely bizarre things. For example, one major problem was surprisingly solved by a vision of a little fluffy green walking bush. Another intensely serious situation was fixed by the sudden appearance of a friendly moose. One woman found herself staring nose to beak with an impertinent seagull with beady little eyes. And a guy who was just trying to visualize family harmony kept having his family dog randomly pop into the mental frame, until he finally gave up fighting it and just hugged the dog in his mind. As crazy as it sounds, these bizarre symbols somehow perfectly resolved their inner emotional turmoil and handed them the exact insights they desperately needed. The takeaway here is absolutely monumental. Bad feelings and negativity will extinguish these impressions every single time. If we constantly reject these bizarre internal symbols just because they don't make logical real-world sense to our outer minds, we break our concentration. We are literally programming our own minds against improvement and insight. Instead, we have to joyfully accept our unique inner images, no matter how fantastic, goofy, or silly they might seem, because those symbols, they are exactly what our inner self knows we need to heal. We started this explainer with a story about being locked in a dark, stuffy room, hopelessly fighting with an immovable pacemaker. But as we've learned, the door is actually unlocked. The true power lies in visualizing the end goal, that beautiful, sweeping, majestic mountain, rather than agonizing over the painful process of getting there. So now that you understand exactly how to step out of your own dark room, master your mental imagery, and tap into this truly unlimited source of cosmic inspiration, I have to ask you, what beautiful path will you consciously choose to walk today?